Welcome into Sports Overtime. Hope you enjoyed week one of the college football season with all the great games. Here on Southeast Sports Plus, we had a preview of all the big games. Here is a best of. Last time Tennessee played was in the college football playoff, and so much has changed. And there's been so many headlines, obviously, a lot of stuff that we don't have to retread with Nico and everything else. But there's a lot of exciting things as well with Joey Aguilar stepping in as the QB1. What's the overall vibe as you're talking about a team that had so much success last year, but looks so different this year?
Yeah, and because they've had, because they look so different and have had so much turnover, there's not a lot of hype for this team, and I feel like the players kind of like it. They like having that chip on their shoulder. They've been saying all week that, people don't think that we're going to be that good. People are looking down on us, but that's exactly when Josh Heupel has been at his best, when there really hasn't been expectations for this team. And yes, there are a lot of young guys on this team, but they're all 4 or 5 stars, so they have the talent. It's just getting them up to speed. And I think Tennessee still has those veteran pieces that are going to help lead the charge. And just looking at Joey Aguilar, I mean, the players love him, and we love talking to him. He's the most humble guy, like blue collar. So there's a lot of positivity around the program itself inside the meeting room that maybe is not on the outside of people looking in.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about. Is ever since Joey was named QB1 there in Knoxville, has anything changed about him, his demeanor, kind of like that swag a little bit?
Yeah, he still has that swag. He is so calm, cool, collected. Exactly. Like, those are the 3 words you want from a starting quarterback, right? Especially a new guy who's new to the offense. And he is humble. He just talks about putting his head down, working hard. He talks about how he just can't wait. He's like, if you had told me this, 2021, 2022, that I'd be the quarterback at the University of Tennessee, like, I would never believe you. He was going to junior college, right? So he knows what this opportunity means, and he has really worked hard for it. And I think he appreciates and understands, what it means to be the quarterback at Tennessee, and it's something that he doesn't take lightly, and I think he's super excited for it.
Of course, Dylan Sampson last year burst on the scene and was the best running back, in my opinion, the best running back in the country. I mean, no offense to Ashton Genty, but he did it in a much harder league, and Sampson did it in a much harder league to me. And so obviously, there's a huge hole there, but obviously there's so much talent, as you just mentioned. 4 and 5 stars litter this entire roster. One of those guys obviously being Deshaun Bishop. And talk a little bit about him, his progression, and just what they expect for his role in this year's offense.
Yeah, you talk about, positivity from this community. I mean, he is a local kid. He went to high school here in Knoxville. He obviously loves playing for his hometown Vols, and everyone is super excited for him. He finally earned a scholarship. He was a walk-on for the past 2 years, and he earned it. I mean, that's the thing. He has totally transformed his body. Coach Jarrell Sims talks about him as just being a leader on this team, but he's not the only guy. Like, don't be surprised if maybe, you see him for a couple of drives, then all of a sudden you see Peyton Lewis in there or Star Thomas. They feel really good about the 3 guys that they have in the room, and I know we're going to have some sound coming up from Deshaun Bishop, and he talks about how this room is so unselfish. They're all rooting for each other, and that's sometimes hard to find. These guys, they kind of want the ball. If you're a running back, you want the ball, you want to get into the end zone, you want those carries, and they talked about how they're just excited for each other, and they're really excited about the trio that they have this season.
Yeah, you teed that up perfectly, Sam. Let's hear from Deshaun.
A lot of running backs around the country is kind of like arrogant a little bit. You don't want everybody touching the ball, but I mean, we love seeing each other make plays, and I really think that shows our character, not selfish at all, and wanting everybody to see it. For me, that's I'm praying for all of us to succeed. Honestly, I know I'm gonna do my thing, and Star's gonna do his thing, Peyton's gonna do his thing, and the other guys are gonna do theirs. Like, I know that you can take me out of the game and go put another one in. It's not gonna be a drop off at all.
The season, as this team gets ready for Virginia Tech, what are your insights about what the Virginia Tech team is and the way that they'll handle this game from a couple of different standpoints? I want to know your thoughts on the field and off the field, because obviously the name Beamer is very, very synonymous there in Blacksburg.
To the off the field point, he really has tried to downplay it going all the way back to the SEC media days, and then through South Carolina's media day in the preseason about the fact that he's facing his alma mater and Virginia Tech. And it's not just his alma mater, but of course it's a school that the Beamer name is regal because of all that his dad achieved there from the mid-'80s all the way into last decade. So he's tried to downplay that whole part of it. I think it's a very good early season test for both teams. Brent Pry would probably love to come to war with a guy named Bashal Tutin to hand the ball off to. Well, he's moved on to the NFL. So I think that that's a real question mark for the Hokies, because that was a big part of any success they had last year. For South Carolina going into this game, you're going to face a Hokies team that last year at times, they had a miss or two defensively. I really think that we talk about Bryce Faison being now eligible for USC to complement Lenora Sellers, that two-headed monster running game. I think two key players are Nick Harbor, a wide receiver, guy you could say was the fastest man in college football after his great career in track and field. He's actually given up the track and field part. He's no longer with South Carolina's team as a sprinter. He's just all focused on football. But he's someone who shows flashes, caught just under 30 passes a year ago. And I really think that he's got to become that breakout, that drawing double coverage target all the time. Right. He's got to become the next star receiver at South Carolina. That goes back even before the days of the recent Pro Football Hall of Famer Sterling Sharp. And I think a guy named Jared Brown is vital. A year ago, when Brown was healthy and on the field, he kind of became that safe target for Sellers. You could throw underneath, you could throw deep. He made a really nice catch in the LSU game in the opening half of that I remember particularly. But I really think, talking about this matchup, Virginia Tech's got to figure out a way to not let Nick Harbor get behind them. But if Jared Brown's healthy, he is as valuable a receiver to the South Carolina offense, I think, as anyone else they have.
It almost feels do or die. And
right.
If he has another 6-win season, heck, I would even say if they only win 7 games, he's going to be on the chopping block. And I guess it kind of depends on, which 7 games you win.
Right.
You get 3 essentially cupcakes in the non-conference. So that would be, you maybe beat a Michigan or, whoever you beat and stuff like that. I think you got to win 8 games, and I think that would really calm a lot of people. I think 8 games is, a good amount of games to win in the SEC. It's tough to win double digits, which is what OU fans have become accustomed to under the Bob Stoops and the Lincoln Riley eras, winning 10, 11 games, going to the Big 12 championship, winning the Big 12 championship, and being in contention for a playoff spot. So people aren't really happy with 2 6-win seasons and 3 years for Mr. Venables.
Holden, you talked a little bit about OSU, and I just remember watching Ollie Gordon in 2023, and I'm like, man, this guy's going to be a problem in 2024, and then it just didn't really pan out. But looking at the Oklahoma running back room, what can we expect out of the Sooners' run game this year?
Yeah, it's actually interesting. The first depth chart was released recently, and you would have expected Jay Knott to be on top of that, but he was not, actually. It was Javonte Barnes and Torrey Blaylock who were listed as kind of the starters there. That was mostly because Jay Knott spent most of the fall camp hurt. He and some of the other guys just missed a lot of practice, and Javonte Barnes and Torrey Blaylock were the 2 that were able to actually practice with them. So that's kind of why they ended up on top of the depth chart there, heading into this week 1 game against Illinois State. Javonte Barnes is an interesting guy. He's been here. There he is right there. Look at that timing on your screens, Javonte Barnes. He's kind of turned into a leader on the offense, considering they've had a lot of turnover, especially the skill players, with wide receiver being a big transition, and then you bring in a new quarterback and running backs and everything like that. Javonte's been here for a while. He's been here throughout the Brent Venables tenure. He had a pretty good season the first year Venables was here, and then he kind of dealt with some injuries and everything, and that was one of the things that was we're almost kind of surprised that he stuck around, because that's not really what you see these days. You get a guy that maybe has a down year, or maybe OU's had kind of a stable of running backs that kind of switch between and stuff. So he's never really been like the guy. Normally in today's era, you see a guy like that just transfer to go find another opportunity. But he said he really likes, DeMarco Murray is the running backs coach here at OU, and he really likes DeMarco and getting to learn from him and everything. So that was kind of why he stuck around. And he's going to be a big piece, in theory, because he's so experienced at OU, and he's a veteran guy. Most of the other guys are kind of young. Xavier Robinson, he's just a true sophomore or redshirt freshman. I can't remember if he played in more than 4 games last year or not. It's hard to keep track of all these guys in the portal and red shirts and everything like that. But his second year at OU, Torrey Blaylock, who I mentioned, he's a true freshman. And Taylor Tatum last year, I think he only played in 4, maybe he played in more than that. So he's going into his second year. So you got a lot of inexperience, and Jaden Knott's the new guy. So Ott and Barnes are going to kind of be your keys there. They've experienced. They know what they're doing, and that'll kind of be the key to the running back room. I really expect Jaden Knott to kind of take this over as long as he stays healthy. But Barnes will be a good number 2, and they've got Robinson, who's kind of more of a power back, kind of a short distance goal line back, and Blaylock, I think he's a pretty good receiver, kind of a speed guy. So you've got a mix in that running back room. It's definitely not going to be an Ollie Gordon situation where you just keep handing the ball off to him, and that's kind of your whole running game. They'll mix some guys in, but I do think Jaden Knott will probably take over the bulk of the carries once they, probably even once they start playing Michigan. He'll probably be the leading ball carrier there. But Barnes and Blaylock and Robinson and Tatum all trying to be able to get into that mix will be important for them to try and take off some of that pressure for John Mateer and the receivers. And the big thing, though, will be whether this O-line can block for him, because that hasn't always been the case considering last year's struggles.
Coming up next here on Sports Overtime, we will continue our best of from Southeast Sports Plus.
We are so excited to welcome in our girl, Chessa Boucher, joining us from Death Valley. Look at you, ponytail vibes, girl. What's up? How's it going there?
This is what Brian Kelly calls Death Valley Junior. So I'm outside the stadium here at Memorial Stadium. He said that. He went on the air and said that. So I'm saying that out here.
He dang sure better go win if you're going to talk like that.
He better.
Wow. Chessa, I know that you arrived there at Clemson a couple days ago. What has the energy, what have the vibes been like? What's it like as we gear up for game day?
Yeah, I will say when I got here Wednesday, it was very chill. Everybody's been super nice, so I can't hate on the fan base whatsoever. Today, though, getting here, I've been staying in Anderson, which is about 20 minutes from Clemson. Okay. It took me almost 40 minutes just to get here to the stadium today, and I was like, oh, that's what we're doing. I saw some fan on, like, a souped-up go-kart driving it, or not even, it was a go-kart. And I was like, I don't think that's legal, but maybe they can do that here in South Carolina. But he looked like Santa Claus, and he was having a good day. So I feel like these two fan bases are going to be kind of wild. Yeah, it was weird. I took a picture. I'll send that to y'all
Please do.
later. But it was wild. It's been wild so far. I feel like tomorrow is just going to be an extension of an amazing party, an amazing atmosphere. But I'm excited about this game. You feel the hype. You feel all of the energy, and like y'all talked about earlier in the show, these kind of matchups are not going to be a thing, so I'm really embracing this one. And the crazy thing is these two teams, both of them have struggled out of the gate. So one of these teams is going to get a dub in a season opener, and it's going to be a big ordeal, and they're all going to talk about the college football playoffs. And I'm here for it, and I'm just hoping it's the right Tigers this time.
Listen, Chessa, it is kind of crazy. Of course, Chessa works for our affiliate there in Baton Rouge, so that's why we got Baton Rouge there on the name tag. However, she is joining us from the Death Valley in Clemson, so not to be confused on those two things. It is interesting that these two teams are opening up the season, and the amount of just parallels, not the Death Valley, the Tigers, the success or lack thereof for openers. It's interesting because it feels like they're almost playing themselves in a way.
Oh, absolutely. And it's crazy because you look at Clemson, they're one of the teams that have brought in the most production from a year ago. They bring in 16 returning starters. LSU, on the other hand, lost their entire offensive line, but they're the #1 portal class in the country. So you have experience just on an LSU team that hasn't played a lot of ball together. So we'll see how that all shakes out. Again, a top 10 matchup in Death Valley Junior. I don't know how it's going to go, but I'm interested.
He really said that? What is he doing?
Yep.
He really said that. Because that's like bulletin board material with the best of them.
Oh, absolutely. But I think Brian Kelly is really confident in this squad. It's the best roster he's had since he's been at LSU, $18 million worth. So I feel like he might have the leg up.
As far as Garrett Nussmeier goes in the offense, obviously when they are at home, they see how much their Death Valley affects the other quarterbacks. As far as Garrett goes in this offense, what do you expect for them offensively as they go into hostile territory and hostile environment? And then what do you think that the offensive, I guess, game plan will be? Would it be just more to quiet the crowd, run the football, or just to air it out and use Gus Nussmeier's arm for the 4,000-something yards he threw for last year?
I think you have to establish the run. We all know last year, I think they were 107th in the country in running the football, which is not great, makes you really one-dimensional. But the defensive front that they're going to face in Clemson, I think you need to have the short yardage, especially kind of out in the flats, get it out quickly. Also, try to get the deep ball going, because when that happens, everything starts flowing. And he's got so many weapons to throw to. I just think offensively, you got to get the running game. If you look back from last year for Clemson, their 4 losses, all 4 losses, they averaged giving up over 200 yards on the ground. And I think LSU's got to establish that early on and not veer away from it. I know last year they threw the ball about 60 to 40 on the running game. So to me, I think it's got to be a balanced attack, and Nuss has to get into a rhythm. He's one of those rhythm quarterbacks. If he can't find a rhythm and he's running for his life, it's going to be a long game for the away Tigers.
Yeah, no question. Chessa Boucher joining us live from Clemson there, Death Valley Junior, if you're talking to Coach Kelly. Chessa, when you think about this game, we're finally here, thank the Lord, because it's taken some time. What has it been like to actually go through a game week with LSU? How has this gearing up for this first game week been different in your past years covering LSU? And then what type of availability have you been able to have with the team since you've been there in town?
It's crazy because Brian Kelly's given the media the most access we've had. I've been in Baton Rouge for almost 9 years now. This is going into my 9th season. We actually got to watch LSU scrimmage Saturday night in Tiger Stadium, which has never been a thing previously. If we did get to see them scrimmage, it was in the spring. It was not this close to game week. And so it's one of those things of, I think Brian Kelly just knows he's got a great roster. If they can put the pieces together, they're going to go on a national championship run. So I think for us as the media, we've been spoiled because we get to see what it looks like day in and day out for practice, which has not been a thing before with Les Miles and Ed Ogeron. We get the first 15 minutes of practice, which we're warming up or doing individual drills, and then they're like, all right, bye. So to see the depth that this team has been impressive, because that's one of the big things of all the knocks from LSU's teams under Brian Kelly. They just didn't have the depth, and I think depth makes a huge difference, especially if you're chasing that playoff run.
Coming up next here on Sports Overtime, we will continue our best of from Southeast Sports Plus. Do you expect the offense to look similar this year, considering McCord came in and was almost, immediate as far as his success goes? Do you expect the same thing for Steve Angeli under Coach Fran Brown in the second year?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that's why, I mean, it was like 4 or 5 months ago that they brought him into the program, right? So, and he got named the starter about 2.5, 3 weeks ago. So it's been a little bit of a quarterback battle with an LSU transfer that came in, both with 4-star recruits coming out of high school. And yeah, I think Syracuse is going to attack. Now, you look at it, a little bit of an experience when you're looking at the receiver room, lack of accomplishments there. Running backs, not a ton of experience there, not without talent and ability. But, this is going to be a building block phase when you look at it. There's no doubt when Angeli got an opportunity at Notre Dame, he can throw it. Now he's going to get an extended opportunity with Syracuse. And I think those are kind of the guys that the Syracuse program at this stage of the building process for Fran Brown are looking for, guys that maybe lost out on starting quarterback opportunities or lost out on opportunities to play someplace else. Well, you've got talent. We're going to give you an opportunity to go out there and play right away and prove whether or not you can sink or swim on the college level. But do I expect this offense to go out there and push it? Yeah, maybe not to the extent of McCord, because I think coming from Ohio State, he was clearly a guy that can go out there and throw it. There was criticism that when he left Ohio State, entered the transfer portal, that he didn't go to a better program than the Syracuse Orange, but he had a really bang-up year last year. I expect the Syracuse offense to try and push it down the field.
Over the course of the time, have you been able to do an impression of either one of those guys?
Well, I mean, Mike, you gotta do the thick Long Island accent,
right?
And without further ado,
can you do? I can't do. I can't do the thick Long Island.
I'm definitely not.
I can't do it. I wish I could. I can't do the thick Long Island. I mean, Dog is very. You kind of gotta have to get hyper. You gotta be like. Let's see. Let me try and get there.
Break down that Mets game.
All right, everybody. How are you today? Mike and the Man.
Yes.
106 on this Friday afternoon. Good to be with you guys.
That's
terrible,
perfect.
but
Mark,
that's my best one.
You just purchase yourself a ticket for an appearance on this show whenever you would like.
That's our show tonight. Thank you so much for joining us on Southeast Sports Plus. Remember, you can watch every weekday from 2 to 4 p.m. on your Apple TV, Roku, or Fire TV device.